Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
I got a 6-year-old in my calculus class in college, and it's going to take my job.
What is this nonsense? Comic Sans? Butler had never seen this film, and I got the indication that he hated it.
She's like, "You pussy, get back in the game!"
He rebels against maturity by taking a job at a movie theater. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's me. At a video store.
Well, this is now owned by Disney, so you're going to see a remake at some point.
Hello, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the film, or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us. Our podcast is available on all platforms with a backlog of 175 episodes for your listening pleasure. And hello.
Hello.
What's going on?
I just got back off a ship into London.
Okay.
I'm going to pick up my trade as a barber in hopes to get the judge that ruined my life in my chair and then slit his throat. And then,
Excellent.
I don't know, maybe have a meat pie afterward.
A Mrs. Lovett's meat pie?
A Mrs. Lovett's meat pie.
Will you be singing?
Genuine.
Will you be singing throughout this venture of yours?
All day, air day, especially to my silver blades.
That's right. This week we're doing the movie musical Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street. And that has a... Oh, wait a minute. Butler.
Oh.
What's that about? What's that about?
Glad you asked. Evil Judge Turpin lusts for the beautiful wife of a London barber and transports him to Australia for a crime he did not commit. Returning after 15 years and calling himself Sweeney Todd, the now madman vows revenge, applying his razor to unlucky customers and shuttling the bodies down to Mrs. Lovett, who uses them in her meat pie shop. Though many fall to his blade, he will not be satisfied until he slits Turpin's throat.
Nice. That's pretty much what happens.
Yeah.
This movie is 116 minutes long. It's rated R. Production budget of $50 million. Came out on December 21st, 2007. Holiday movie, Butler.
Oh, yeah.
Christmas film. Its opening weekend, it did $9.3 million. Domestic total did $52.9 million. International was 100.4 to give it a worldwide total of $153.3 million. So it did well, better internationally than domestically, which is not surprising. Production. You said, you don't agree with that?
No, I agree. Probably
Okay.
Johnny Depp star power.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And yeah. Yes. Production company was DreamWorks Pictures, Parks and McDonald Productions, and the Zanuck Company. Distributed by Paramount Pictures in North America and Warner Brothers internationally. So I said it came out on the 21st of December. It went up against these holiday films in wide releases. The National Treasure Book of Secrets, the sequel. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, which I didn't realize was a holiday film. Charlie Wilson's War, which I love. And P.S. I Love You. So kind of a strong weekend it went up against. The week after was actually not technically the week after. Christmas Day is the next big release date. And you had in a wide release, The Water Horse, Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. Again, I did not realize that was a Christmas film.
Nope.
The Great Debaters, Juno, and then the limited release of The Bucket List and Persepolis, excuse me. And then you had a limited release, the 26th, the Dex Day, of There Will Be Blood. So I guess, I don't know why it didn't come out Christmas. I'm wondering if there was a midnight of that, probably on Christmas Day. Probably. Because you had midnights on Christmas back
Not
then.
sure. I mean, I probably worked it, but.
Yeah. The week before, the 14th of December, you had in a wide release I Am Legend and Alvin and the Chipmunks, and then a limited release of The Kite Runner and Youth Without Youth. That is the Francis Ford Coppola film, I believe. Excuse me. Sorry. This film was directed by Tim Burton, who was nominated for 2 Oscars. Frankenweenie and Corpse Bride, both those were nominated for animated features. And he produced those, of course. He's also done Edward Scissorhands, Big Fish, and Beetlejuice, just to name a few. Written by John Logan, who was nominated for 3 Oscars, Gladiator, The Aviator, and Hugo. He's also a director and writer of the recent horror film They, Them on Peacock. Cinematography was Dariusz Wolski, who was nominated for an Oscar for News of the World. He's also done The Martian and Crimson Tide. The musical and musical adaptation, these are credits within the movie. For the musical part is Hugh Wheeler, who's done Nijinsky and Something for Everyone. And then musical adaptation was Christopher Bond. They are obviously related to the, what's the word I'm looking for? The production, the original production, the Broadway production.
Right.
So they were, anyways, edited by Chris Levinson. Was nominated for an Oscar for Crimson Tide and Top Gun. He also has done Alice in Wonderland. And then produced by John Logan, Laurie McDonald, Walter F. Parks, and Richard D. Zanuck. Logan has produced the TV show Penny Dreadful. I believe he created that as well. He's produced Bats and Genius. McDonald has produced the MIB series, Men in Black series, and the Ring series, to name a few. Parks has done Awakenings, War Games. He actually was nominated for Awakenings, nominated for a doc for the California Reich, and was nominated for War Games, but he wrote War Games, for those who don't know. So he was nominated for that as well. And Zanuck was nominated for Jaws and The Verdict for Best Picture nods. He produced those. And he won an Oscar for the Best Picture, Driving Miss Daisy. So this movie has Johnny Depp as Sweeney Todd, who was nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Finding Neverland and the other for Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, or Caribbean. And he's also in the TV show 21 Jump Street. Yes, that was a TV show before it was a movie franchise.
What?
Helena Bonham Carter plays Mrs. Lovett. Nominated for 2 Oscars, one for The Wings of the Dove and the other for The King's Speech. He's also in Fight Club, which I like quite a bit. Alan Rickman plays Judge Turpin from Die Hard, the Harry Potter series. He plays Severus Snape, for those out there who are Harry Potter fans. He's also in Bottle Shock.
A lot of Harry Potter people.
Yes.
Oh, you already said Helena Bonham Carter, which she's Bellatrix.
Yes. Well, if you're English, you're probably in the Harry Potter movies. and he also did Galaxy Quest. Obviously, Rickman passed away in 2016, gone too soon. So that always makes me a little sad. Timothy Spall as Beetle, who plays Turpin's, not henchman, but like his creepy...
His right-hand man.
Yeah, his creepy like chief of staff kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows where the bodies are buried.
Man. Oh, yes. He's so good, sir. He's so good, sir.
He obviously plays, who is he in Harry Potter? He is Wormtail, right?
He's Wormtail, yep.
Yep.
Peter Pettigrew.
Yep. He's also in Vanilla Sky and Secrets and Lies. And then Sacha Baron Cohen as Pirelli, who was nominated for writing for Oscar for Borat, the 2 Borat films. There's 2 Borat films, right?
2 Borat films, yep.
2, yep. He also was nominated for an acting Oscar for The Trial of Chicago 7, the Chicago 7, and he's also in Talladega Nights. Not nominated for an Oscar for that. Although that's still funny. That's a funny film. Jamie Campbell Bower as Anthony. He's in the Twilight Saga, Rock and Rolla, but you may know him as Vecna in Stranger Things, for those who don't know. Which I didn't. Go ahead.
I forgot. He's young Grindelwald.
Yes.
He's acting with Johnny Depp.
So, but I think more people are probably more attuned to the Stranger Things.
Now they know him as Vecna, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I just finally got to that. I mean, this is coming out in December. We're recording this in October, but I finally got at least to watch the episode where he turns into Vecna.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, nice. Finally.
So you are 2 episodes away from the end?
Yeah,
3?
the next episode's 2.5 hours, so I'm never going to, 2 hours, 38 minutes. I'm never going to finish it now.
You're not a fan, because real fans were like, let's go. That's what real fans were like, brother. Real fans.
You don't understand, man.
Jane Weisner as Johanna. She's in Jane Eyre and the Harris.
Joanna.
Just like that, too. Ed Sanders as Toby, or Tobias from the play. He's in Hugo and Kill or Be Killed. He's the little kid in the movie. And then Laura Michelle Kelly as Lucy / Beggar Woman. She's, which was like, we'll get to it. But anyways, she's in the movie Goddess. And then you saw Giles in this as Man on Street. And we'll get to why he's in this film, Anthony Head, because he gets cut out.
Anthony Head, yeah.
Poor Christopher Lee. You don't even see him.
That's even worse. Yep.
So, who put this on the list? Me? You?
I must have, yeah. I didn't even think you had seen this movie.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. Why wouldn't I have seen this?
All right.
What are you trying to say?
I had thought you had said you never saw it at one point.
No, I saw it. I will say this. When I was watching it now, because I can't remember what my initial reactions were when I first watched this film.
Mm-hmm.
They probably were just kind of, I think I was just kind of like, yeah, it was okay. It was good. But like watching it now, I think I did like it a lot more second watch. And maybe because, I don't know, I was paying attention. Maybe I wasn't paying attention when I was out back then, because you know what happens when you just keep watching films and fun films, you just kind of like zone out sometimes. Right. So I'm glad I revisited it because there was a lot of it that I really liked. And I think for just kind of thinking back, I think this second watch was a bit more favorable than my first watch. I just don't think it really registered watching it the first time. Just the stuff in the movie that I registered with me now. What about you?
I love this movie. I think it's really well done. The first time I had watched it, I was really interested in the film just based on the look of stills and stuff and some previews about what the movie was. But I had not read for some reason that it was a musical. So I didn't realize it was a musical until about 2 days before I watched it. And so I was like really pumped to watch this like violent Johnny Depp, Tim Burton movie. And then I finally watched the trailer that showed, because I think the teaser trailer doesn't show you it's a musical. And I finally watched like the final trailer, a commercial that showed or clips of like one of the songs. And it was the I Want You Bleeders moment. And I was like, oh, this shit's going to be weird. And then I watched it and I loved it. I thought the musical stylings were really interesting. The look of the film was really cool. And the more I watch it, the more I notice like little things, the more I like pick up on little acting moments. And the more I like certain songs that maybe didn't resonate with me before, like I just appreciate them a little bit more. So I really like this film. I've probably seen it. I mean, I own it, but I've probably only seen it. This is probably my fourth time watching all the way through.
So you didn't know it was a play, a Broadway musical?
I had known it was a play, but I didn't know it was a musical play.
Okay. So you didn't know that Angela Lansbury was in the original production?
No, not until afterward. And then I looked up a bunch of stuff about it.
Okay. Yeah. So for those who don't know, it was the original Broadway production starred Angela Lansbury and Len Carew, and it opened at the Uris Theater on February 6, 1979, ran for 557 performances, and won the 1979 Tony Awards for Best Musical, Book, and Score. So obviously it's a Stephen Sondheim play, or musical. And it's obviously got a big track record. I know that it's very difficult to sometimes bring musicals from the stage to movies because inevitably you can't just do the whole thing. They're two different animals. Yeah. You have to cut songs. You have to cut moments and characters, which they do here. They cut a lot.
They did cut a lot, which includes the beginning and end.
Yes, they cut the opening. I think the note I had was that they cut what was the first song called The Ballad of Sweeney Todd, because they kind of and I think that Tim Burton was like, it opens up with this, a song about what happened to Sweeney Todd, but it's like we could just show you in the movie instead of just doing this, which I get that kind of.
Yeah, it spoils the end too, because at least in the versions I've seen in the play, I've only watched one play version, and they find his body at the beginning, so he doesn't make it, which kind of, I think, movie wise would kind of spoil it for you. Although that's where Anthony Head and Christopher Lee come in.
So talk about that.
So there's basically supposed to be like the ghost or the spirits of some of his victims, and they're basically playing the fates or what's the name of them in plays, in Greek plays?
The chorus?
The chorus, yeah, they're the chorus. And they sing they sing the Ballad of Sweeney Todd, and they sing the reprise. They basically bookend the film. Mm-hmm. And because the reprise was taken out, it didn't make sense to have, or the beginning was taken out, didn't make sense to have the reprise at the end in there as well. So the entire Ballad of Sweeney Todd, which is the dun 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 dun,
which you get at the beginning sometimes.
Yeah, they played the song, they just don't play the lyrics to it. Because in that, the entire city's basically chanting like "Raise your razors high, Sweeney." So because they didn't do the beginning because it shows off too much, they didn't do the end, and they cut that whole kind of section out, as well as a few other musical beats. But that's why Christopher Lee, the legendary Christopher Lee, would have been awesome to see him in a Tim Burton movie, was cut out. And then Anthony Head I don't even remember what his line is. He's not even a spirit. He's just some dude in town.
He asks him where his shop is or something, because it's after.
Oh, it's after Pirelli?
It's after he wins the Pirelli, National Pirelli. Yeah. They also cut out Miss Judge Turpin's version of Joanna, because there's two different versions. There's two different versions of the Joanna song. There's one sung by Sweeney Todd and one sung by the I can't remember the character's name. The guy who wants her, Anthony.
Yep.
Vecna. Anthony. I'm just going to call him Vecna. And so they cut that out. They cut Kiss Me, Parlor Song, City on Fire. And obviously you talked about, they cut the epilogue out, the bookend. They took away all the choral singing, the ensemble singing. God, That's Good, which they didn't really play, which I know that's I've heard that before.
Right. Yeah.
On more than one occasion. So I was kind of like, I was kind of bummed at that, because in this second watch for me, I didn't remember what was in, what was out. I knew of the songs, I knew of the music, but I didn't know what made it, what didn't. So I kind of was bummed that God, That's Good wasn't in it. So I was like, yeah, all right, fine.
So you had never seen the Broadway the play version before at all? Like even before your second watch?
No. Not live. I mean, I saw the version in what's the name of the movie with the Kevin Smith film when Ben Affleck performs it with his daughter.
Chasing Amy?
Not Chasing Amy. The one where J-Lo dies, when his wife dies and she has the kid. My goodness. Jersey Girl.
Jersey. Yep.
Okay. I saw it the way because they perform it in Jersey Girl. I've also seen it performed in the show The Office. When Andy is in the play. It's like ridiculous. So, but that's not my only experience of the play outside of here. So I will say that. But to its credit, the movie works well.
Oh yeah.
So I think those decisions were right. We're right. And even I know there's a note that I have that Stephen Sondheim says that this is one of the ones that he likes the most, the movie musicals of his adaptations.
Yeah, he's particular about what he lets people do.
Oh, geez. I would be too.
Yeah. West Side Story and this are basically the two things he's really let people kind of run with. Yeah,
I would too. I mean, come on. You can't really, it's tough. It's tough seeing your stuff being done. And then if it's done bad, you're just like,
No, especially when it's a movie version, things are going to be cut and things aren't going to be exactly the way they were embellished upon. But I think Tim Burton was probably the perfect choice to tell this kind of story, which Sondheim pretty much agreed.
Yes. And I do love the note where that Burton was going to initially shoot this with minimal sets and on green screen. And then he changed his mind. He decided against it. He was like, no, I think physical sets will help he says physical sets will help the actors get into a musical frame of mind. Just having people singing in front of a green screen seemed more disconnected. Thank God. I mean, I know they shot in Pinewood Studios, so I know it was kind of like similar to where they shot Sleepy Hollow, where they're in this giant studio and they've got the fake sky in the background, because you can tell when they're at the beach and she's singing the song about how they're gonna grow old together and all that stuff. Mrs. Lovett
down by the sea.
Yeah, that they're in a studio, but I don't care. I think it looks great, and I'm glad that he didn't use green screen. I think it would have just kind of took me out of the film.
Oh, you can't do that kind of like griminess, the tactileness of it. That's classic Tim Burton, is to see these dilapidated kind of gross things. And also the fact that it's like mid 1800s London, which is grimy and gross. And you can't get that with CG. This was 15 years ago, 20 years ago now. You still can't even get that today. Mm-hmm. CG just for the most part can't give you that kind of visceral feel.
The other decision that he made that I liked was that it's bloody. Yes. Very, very, very bloody. I thought that the note I have here was a quote of his. He insisted that the film be bloody, and as he felt stage versions of the play cut back on the bloodshed and robbed it of its power. For him, quote, everything is so internal with Sweeney that the blood is like his emotional release. It's more about catharsis than it is a literal thing. So I was glad that it was bloody because it should be.
Agreed. Yeah.
And the other note that I have, which was like, I thought was awesome, was that the fake blood. So the fake blood was actually colored orange so it would render red correctly on the desaturated color film they were using.
Oh, okay.
So that's why when you see it, it looks kind of like fake bloody red, which I'm okay with. Mm-hmm. But that's because it's actually really orange, and because they were shooting on desaturated film on purpose. That they had to right. And I thought, and my other note, which I think that's a great note. I love that. I love hearing that. But my other note was that off of that, I was watching this film for a movie that has no color. Like it's just grays and blacks and whites and just various shades of gray. Mm-hmm. Movie that has very little color, with the exception of like the scenes when they're inside with Joanna and stuff like that. When you see her in her house with the judge's house, it looks beautiful. Like it looks great. Yeah. Like I couldn't get over how well it looked. And I don't know how you thought about that, but I just, for something that because usually when we're talking about cinematography, we're always talking about the colors of the film and what they're trying to do. But there is nothing in this film that's extremely colorful, but it still looks fantastic.
Because it's almost like it's trying to be a black and white film, but it's not. It's just trying to be a film where it's just devoid of color. It's a world of sadness. And I think it really works really well because there are hints of like the meat pies have a little bit of brown coming out, and you do get like hints of like a dark red in certain people's clothes. And it's like, okay, so it's not black and white. It's not trying to be Sin City. It's not trying to be fake black and white and pop of color. The colors are all in there. It's just all devoid. And I think that makes it, you appreciate the makeup work, the costuming, the cinematography, the editing. Like it all just kind of has to come together to create this really cool world of grays, like you said, just grays and blacks and whites, and just not in a black and white kind of way, but really playing with those colors in a way that most films don't.
Mm-hmm. This movie was nominated for 3 Academy Awards. Best costume design, like we just talked about, and best art direction. And best art direction, actually, they won the Academy Award. Johnny Depp was nominated for best actor. What's funny about that, Butler, is that now that makes 3 of the 5 movies represented in the 2008 Oscars are movies that we've covered on the show. So he was nominated, George Clooney for Michael Clayton, and Viggo Mortensen in Eastern Promises. Nice. So we're basically covering the gamut of the best actor category in the 80th Academy Awards.
All right, we got to go for the rest of them.
There Will Be Blood.
Forgotten.
But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because, you mentioned the art direction and the costume design.
Johnny Depp's really good as Sweeney Todd.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
I think that's one of the best parts of the film is like, he really is. And this was like in the midst of, Pirates. In fact, he was learning some of his Sweeney Todd music while shooting Pirates. It's just, it's interesting to see him switch gears and play this terrible role and, still putting on a British accent. But he also didn't know if he could sing at that point. Like Tim Burton wanted him to be in the film. And if you listen to interviews with him, he goes like, hey, would you like to do this film? It's a musical. He goes, well, I don't know if I can sing, but I'll try.
Well, he can sing.
It's like rock and roll. Yeah.
Right. Like one of my notes is, do you think people remember that he was in a band? Like the early days in LA, like that he was, that's how he first kind of
got on the scene.
Yeah. Like he was,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know. I think his singing style, like you said, is more rock.
Yeah.
But I think that I read a lot of notes that talked about how, they were surprisingly, pleasantly surprised at his vocals, or some people called his vocals a little flat, but still worked. I actually like the rock angle a little bit with Sweeney Todd. I actually dug it. Like, his performance.
Yeah, no, I think of all the Sweeney Todds I've heard, and I've heard about 3 different Sweeney Todd versions all the way through. I think his is definitely the one that works the best because it's not trying to be super Broadway. It's still pretty Broadway. It's very musical, but he's got that hint of gravel, that hint of rock. And I think that really works for an unleashed, hinged madman like Sweeney Todd, as opposed to just like this super trained operatic, Broadway voice. That's not what Sweeney Todd is. That's not who he is.
Yeah, it's a movie where the movie itself, not the production, the play, but the movie, it's not I just said it was beautiful, but it's a dirty film. It's not
beautifully grimy.
Right. So his voice shouldn't be beautiful. It should be beautifully grimy. Like perfect, like it should be like that. I found that was, and it's a good contrast between when he's singing the Joanna song and Anthony's singing the Joanna song and Anthony's singing it like, he's going to come for you. He's in love with you. He's going to do anything for you. And he's singing it and he's killing people as he's singing it. So it shouldn't be, you know what I mean? So I think that works even better.
Sad and resigned. Yeah. Which is one of the things I've watched this a few times now. And even like I listen to the soundtrack all the time. I always skip Joanna and the duet version because I didn't really like it the first couple times, but listening to it this time, that really stuck with me. And I was like, this song's actually kind of cool. The way they do it and the way they play with story and emotion with it. But yeah, I really like that this time around is the difference in the cadence and what they're singing about, even though they're saying the exact same lines.
Right.
Which is also similar with Pretty Women, but I've always liked that the use of this song about pretty women, and it's this really nice little song with even with the bop, 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 bop. It's just like two guys like just riffing, but really there's a lot of dark undertone to it. And like as you're watching it, it's just like that makes it more disturbing as you're watching them sing the song as he's getting ready to murder this man.
Well, also, like, we just barely scratched the surface of like how depraved Judge Turpin is and stuff.
Sending the little boy to die to hang. I can see you'll never change your ways.
But he's having these like eyes wide shut parties times 10, where he's just
masquerade rape parties,
openly raping this woman in front of everybody. I'm like, oh God.
Yep.
Yeah, and like every time they cut to a close up of Beetle, like Timothy Spall's character, I'm just like, please push back a little bit. I don't.
I just can't believe that Anthony lets him beat the crap out of him. Like, get up and kick this guy's ass. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when they made him the tough guy kicking him out, I'm like, I don't believe that for a second.
I don't know. Like I said, I wish I knew the play more because I felt like Turpin's stuff. We didn't get a lot of Turpin.
We didn't get that much Turpin.
No. And I know that they made a lot of cuts where there was more to the Joanna and Anthony stuff, but they kind of turned it. They made a lot of cuts to just kind of like focus on the triangle between Turpin, Sweeney Todd, and Joanna. Like they kind of like focused on that a little bit more, which it works and it's good. But I kind of was interested in having a little bit more about Turpin and all that stuff.
Yeah. A little bit more Joanna and Anthony would help too. Cause it just makes him seem like a crazy infatuated loser, which he kind of is. Even in the play, he kind of is, but like you don't get like any real scenes of them together or knowing each other. So doing just a little bit more, I think, would have helped for the film as well.
Did you read about how Helena Bonham Carter trained for the role?
That she had to listen. She listened to music while she was baking pies and learned how to bake.
Well, she had to take vocal lessons for the role, but she rehearsed the songs while baking because she did also study baking to she says while baking to perfect the quick syncopated, I don't know if I said that right, rhythm of music. So like just kind of like probably just to match the scene.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting, just kind of, you don't think of it. You don't think of how much, sometimes people just don't think of how much work goes into a scene or a character, which is so a lot of this movie had a lot of those kind of notes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
She does a great job.
She does. Yeah. I don't have a problem with anybody in this film.
No. like everybody like the whole running joke with Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp is like that the Ricky Gervais show with where they step into his Johnny Depp's office. He tries to offer him a job.
Extras.
Yeah, I'm doing a movie. Can you guess the director? Tim Burton. Yeah, well, guess who my leading lady is? Just off the top of my head, Helena Bonham Carter. How did you guess that? So like when you think about that, it is kind of like this running joke, but when you like, she put in like, what was it, 12 or more audition tapes to Sondheim because Sondheim had to sign off on everybody. But when she plays the role, like she's probably like on par with Angela Lansbury, R.I.P. But she does like her Mrs. Lovett is really, really good and filled with this interesting energy and this just offness that I really enjoy. She doesn't play it as particularly evil as I've seen it done. She plays it more just like matter of fact, like I need meat and there's some meat.
Well, that's the thing too. She's an opportunist, but she's got creditors and she's got to pay bills and it's
that corner shop can't be cheap.
No, but like it's a time in England when there's so much disparity between the rich and the poor and she's somebody who like she knows it's bad, but she's taking advantage of an opportunity.
Yep.
So that she can better her own position in life. And then she kind of falls in love with Sweeney Todd, and I guess we're supposed to believe that. And
well, I get that she always had a thing for Sweeney Todd. Yeah,
but Benjamin Barker. But yeah, you don't you never kind of see her in the flashbacks kind of thing, so you don't really get that. But again, who cares?
Yeah,
it's her death is the worst death of all of them.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not quick.
No, it's terrible. As Sweeney Todd throws her into the furnace, and we watch her burn alive.
Yep.
Thankfully, he shuts the door.
But it takes a few seconds for him to do that.
Yeah. But she's not a good. Technically, she's not a good person.
No,
so she has to go. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you have the kid who survives, who is a decent person, obviously. Now,
Toby.
did you see the note that in the original production, it's tradition that the Tobias role he's called Tobias on stage, not Toby,
right?
But is played by an adult character who is mentally challenged. Like that's the character on the stage. I did not know that.
I feel like it's easy. It's easier to get an adult to do stage work when you're performing your Broadway plays 7 days a week or 6 days a week. And it's also easier to see, especially back when this started, an adult in those kind of situations and not placing a child in those situations.
Right.
So I feel like maybe that's why he's made to be just a mentally handicapped person as opposed to an actual child. But
I think it works as a child here.
Yeah, no, I think it works better as the child. Because it raises the stake, it raises the emotion, it raises the fear and the hope that, he gets out of it okay.
Mm-hmm.
As he slits Sweeney Todd's throat. Which is the first time I noticed that he Sweeney Todd, every other time I watch it, I just figured he's just lamenting. But no, Sweeney Todd knows he's right behind him about to slit his throat.
Oh yeah, he raises his head up.
He raises his head so that Toby can finish him.
Right.
This is the first time I really realized that. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I don't know if I like that Toby does that, because then that instantly makes Toby somebody who, I don't know. He's now a great character. You know what I mean?
Justice in an unjust world where even the judges sending kids to hang.
But what's going to happen to him?
He's going to have to work back in the factory, I guess.
I guess, yeah. It's not a good life for Toby.
Maybe Toby becomes a barber as well.
Toby's Meat Pies?
Toby's Meat Pies. That's the sequel. You find out Toby's taking on Mrs. Lovett and Sweeney Todd's business.
Mr. Toby's Meat Pies.
Kick the old woman out.
Did you feel that the movie just ended? Like it just ends?
Yeah. I originally liked that ending. And then when I ended up watching the Broadway plays, I really liked the reprise. I really liked the opening. I like that song, and I like it with the lyrics, and I think it's really cool and dark, and that everybody sings it, and he's become this legend. You don't really get that with this film, that he's, it's called Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, but that's like a title that somebody bequeathed onto him. So clearly he's a legend, but you don't see him become a legend in this film. So I would have at least liked maybe the reprise happens, but maybe you just thought it would be too weird to put the reprise if you don't have the opening.
I get it. It just kind of just ends. I'm like, oh, it's over.
After he kills his wife.
Yeah, real quick too.
Don't I know you? She said. Ugh.
What?
Like kills his wife. When I saw that, the first when that happened, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I didn't see that coming. Even though I should have, but
of course you should have. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Did you realize she was his wife?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. You kind of. I mean, you don't have a character for no reason there. I mean, that's got to be
a reason.
There's always a purpose. Yeah. Especially, I find that productions and plays and always have that kind of, not twist, but always have that kind of
character that's been in it and turns out to be somebody else.
Yeah. So I kind of it wasn't a surprise. We talked about how people were hesitant or down on Johnny Depp in this because of his voice, but Russell Crowe is going to be in this with Sam Mendes directing.
So like that voice.
I'm just saying, like, why, like, what, that's what you were going to get if Sam Mendes and Russell Crowe moves forward with this. And Mendes was actually, he brought John Logan on initially to write the script. Mm-hmm. And then when Burton came on, they rewrote it together. So him and Logan worked together, but Mendes went on so Sam Mendes left to direct Jarhead for whatever reason. So he dropped out. And then Burton, the only reason Burton was able to step in was because his Ripley's Believe It or Not movie fell apart. It was too expensive. And so
I forgot he was going to do that movie.
Yeah. So that movie fell apart and then he sided on into Sweeney Todd. So
he made out.
Wasn't Ripley's Believe It or Not was going to be with Jim Carrey?
Maybe.
Why do I think that?
It could have been. I just remember it being a big deal because it was like right after Big Fish, and I was like, he's doing a Ripley's Believe It or Not movie. This is going to be the one that gets him the Oscar. And then nothing happened.
I like Big Fish quite a bit.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of only 3 Tim Burton films not to be scored by Danny Elfman.
Well, I mean, how's he going to score it? I mean, in what way is he going to score this
That's probably why Danny Elfman, I'm sure he asked and Danny Elfman was like, nah, it's not.
Yeah, what am I going to do?
I'm not creating any music for this. Yeah.
Right.
There's nothing for me in this movie.
Now, do you know the history of the character Sweeney Todd? Because I do not.
I do. I had actually looked it up before or the other day.
Well, hit me with it. Let's go.
Up again. So that I can,
come on. You're not even ready.
I don't have it in my movie notes because it's not really a movie note. So basically, he was created in the story, The String, a Penny Dreadful serial, The String of Pearls. And it was from 1946 to 1947. So it was told in little bits.
19 or 18?
1846, I'm sorry, to 1847. And it became this big legend about a crazy murderer in Fleet Street. Sweeney Todd murdered his customers with the straight razor. And he's got that chair that leads them in backwards and breaks their neck. Like all that was very specific and actually part of the very original story. And Mrs. Lovett was there as partner in crime who baked him into pies. And that's exactly how it was told. And it was told so many times in so many different places. That was actually turned into a novel. Charles Dickens wrote a little bit about him, like hinted at him, because he started to really pervade a lot of London culture. And a lot of books, like the first compilation book, certain small plays and like tiny one-offs were acted in the streets and stuff after that. And people started to put at the beginning that it's based on a real story. And so people started to think Sweeney Todd was a real story and it was a true story, but there's no evidence that was ever at all really true. But it started to, like, France picked it up. America picked it up, actually in a plagiarized version of this story called Sweeney Todd, the Ruffian or the Barber. But some people think that it might have come from places in the Middle East. certain cities where there was possibly a barber that did the same thing. A Swedish traveler had heard stories in the 17th century about all this. So there's been a legend of a killer barber for a while, and it's not hard to see why, because you're sitting in a seat and trusting your life to this guy with a straight razor who, you know, in a time when people were always not so nice, it's a pretty dangerous proposition. So that's kind of how it took off. And then it was like a play in the 20s was the first time it was on Broadway as a play. And then it was in 1970, I want to say 3. It was that's when, let me see, I want to get this part right because it's newer. Yes, in 1973, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, was created by Christopher Bond, the British playwright. And in that, it wasn't a musical. And he gave him the story of being Benjamin Barker, wrongfully convicted of a crime, who after 15 years in Australia came back to find out that his wife Joanna was raped and murdered by the judge, or raped and then died later. And then his daughter was being kept by the judge as his ward, who was going to become his wife, which is really gross. Oh, yeah. By the way,
I think I'll take you as my wife. Okay.
Yeah. Wasn't I your daughter like 5 seconds ago?
No. She recoiled when I offered my hand in marriage. I love that.
Yeah, of course she did. So that was 1973. And then just 6 years later, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, a musical thriller, was created by Stephen Sondheim with the same story. So that's when that started to take off. First in Broadway in 1979, and then London's West End in 1980, where it won all those awards and stuff like that.
Your end of the lesson.
That's my end of it.
Well, it's an intriguing story. So it's interesting. Kind of like took on its own. What's the word I'm looking for?
Legend.
Life of its own. The character took on a life of its own.
It's almost like if we found out that Jack the Ripper was like all made up. No, it's just from the story. It never actually happened.
We know who it was.
Yeah. But now people pretty much know it's not true. But I think that's what happens when you keep telling everybody, oh, this is a true story. It's based
Sweeney
on Sweeney
Todd or Jack the Ripper?
Sweeney Todd. Obviously, Jack the Ripper was real, but
yeah, it's Bilbo Baggins eating that heart. I'm talking about From Hell.
From Hell, the episode we did in season 9.
Cooking that. Let's cook that heart in the tea kettle. Boop, boop.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the note how they made a mechanical razor for Johnny Depp because it was too quick?
Open it fast. Yeah.
Well, I would want that too, though. I would want to cut my hand. So there's a button on the razor. So when Depp pulls it out really fast, it just opens up. So it's like, where's that prop now?
I'm sure it wasn't a real razor.
I'm sure none of them were real.
Yeah. Like cut his hands. But I get that as well. Like, I'm not going to be able to open this fast. I'm going to have to do 100,000 takes. I don't want to have to worry about my, especially a musical. I don't have to worry about my blocking, singing the song right, which I'm probably ad-libbing as a recording of myself goes on. And then worry about getting this damn blade open. Go, God damn it!
No, they were singing on set. So the note I had, the note I had was that Tim Burton was talking about how every day on set there was so much energy because they were all singing on the set while they were doing this. Just because he was talking about like you can't fake breath if he's going to mimic it. True, if you're taking your breath, it would just look bad. So they were singing. He's like, he talked about how it was really one of the most rewarding experiences of his life, directing wise.
I like that when they do that because you're right. You can't fake, breath. You can't fake singing. And there's a certain energy and truth to what you're singing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Les Mis isn't a great movie. It's like not perfect, but like Anne Hathaway's, song when she's like crying and stuff when she's singing her song is great because she's actually singing it, and in the moment she felt all those emotions. Like it wasn't planned that she was going to break down quite as much as she did, but it just happened.
Actors.
I think it's better when you actually sing on stage, and also like I said before, you have less to worry about. I think it's worse to try to ad lib. It's easier to just sing the damn song.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if you're a performer, I don't think you would have a problem with that. And do you really need 45 takes to do that? You shouldn't. So, you should be able to nail it within a few, 5 or 6, maybe.
Yeah, you should have already rehearsed as well. It's a musical.
Oh, of course.
You should know
of course, you should treat it like you should treat each big scene like a stage production. Like that. It should be. I think that just makes it easier too in terms of shooting and editing and stuff like that.
Agreed.
I agree, Butler. Well, why are we saying it's forgotten then?
I feel like this was made in the middle of his Pirates of the Caribbean. Caribbean.
Well, this did well.
It did well overseas. It was swallowed up by the other movies that came out in Christmas time. I don't know why. I feel like this Christmas was a good release for this. It's a musical. It's cold. It's London. Maybe I would say Thanksgiving, but that's usually even tougher. There's always a huge movie for Thanksgiving. That's a family movie that everyone has to rush to. So maybe it would do better February or something like that, or October, but I don't see this as a Halloween movie. I know in the last episode you had mentioned that, this should have been forgotten horror. But I think that although there is blood and stuff, I think this is kind of just a musical, like a tragedy. And
I can talk.
Nope. I always mix up when I say tragedy. I don't know why.
Because you're dyslexia.
But I think maybe it just didn't resonate with people that year, or it was in the height of his pirates and people didn't want to see him as anything but Jack Sparrow, or people saw it as him doing another character shtick, or Americans hate musicals. Like, dudes, you're not going to grab your boyfriend and take him to a musical, even though he's slicing throats and killing a ton of people.
Well, I mean, I know that we both like the songs, but to be fair, there's not a song from this movie that transcends the film where people always sing and remember. Do you know what I mean? It's
an odd kind of musical. The music isn't, I guess Pretty Women is like the most musical type song. But again, he's singing it while he's about to murder someone. All the other songs are very strange. Like I love, what's the name of the song? It's I Got Your Bleeders. But he breaks down and says lines during it and then picks up a different song in the middle of it. And it's very abrupt and very almost disjointed, just like Sweeney is. And it's a song about, I'm going to chop people up and put them into meat pies and stuff as well.
But they're delicious.
Like a little priest, which is a great song.
Oh, I love that. I love that song. Yeah. Well, two things. One, so you talked about Thanksgiving, if this came out Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving that year was Enchanted. And Enchanted is obviously a musical. Right.
Yeah.
But it's a musical. So you're not going to have two musicals come out at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to that point about a song that transcends the movie, Enchanted's got that big song, How Do You Know? That Don't you do it, man. I'm not going to, but you know what I mean. I say it and you already know the song.
It's
and you
already
know
played in the back of my head now.
Right. So to your point, Sweeney Todd, you don't have that. Even though those songs are great, even though we both love them, you don't really have those songs that people are just going to start. Oh, I remember that song. And they just start singing them. So
I've had a couple of those songs stuck in my head for the last day.
Yeah, but you listen to it constantly.
That's true,
I'm talking about
the
casual audiences. Yeah. So, plus it's not Disney. Like you said, it's darker. It's a horror movie. It's not a princess film. It's not like anything like that. So there's that too. Yeah. So, but, I guess maybe it's more forgotten for a casual audience goer or people who are not something they would go to, like you said.
Yeah.
But I think that being said, go back.
Casual person probably knows about it, but yeah, probably never seen it.
I don't even know if Jody saw it.
Really?
I can't even. At some point, she stopped seeing films. So now it's like,
Elise loves this film. She watched a little bit, but obviously fell asleep because she can't stay up for more than 20 minutes.
Yep. I actually had it on and Penelope came down and I was like, I'll turn this off. I'm watching this. I'm watching this. It's rated R. And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, and then there's a couple of cut scenes and she's like, oh, I goes, are you scared? Are you scared? And I'll turn it off. I just turned it off. I'm like, forget it. I don't want it. She's like, it just took me by surprise. I go, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
She was scared by the throat cutting?
It just like, we watch Stranger Things So there was stuff in there that kind of was just like, she keeps saying like it takes her by surprise. I think it just grosses her out, that kind of stuff. So I didn't want to, because there was more to come in the Sweeney Todd. I was trying to finish it up.
Right.
Because I fall asleep at night. I'm just like, so of course, nobody comes downstairs for a half hour. Of course, as soon as I put on the movie because I want to watch it, boom, 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 everyone comes downstairs. I'm like, God damn it. So I got to the part where I was just like, whatever, fine, just watch it. But then, that failed. So
womp womp.
Exactly. Yeah. So I hope people go back to it. I hope people will check it out and definitely
on HBO Max.
There you go. Easy, free if you actually pay for HBO. But you know what else is free, Butler? We're free.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. While you're there, check out all the other great podcasts and video content we have for you guys to check out there. And then you're listening to us right now. Drop a like, rate, subscribe, review, all that stuff helps the podcast. And check us out on Forgotten Cinemas The Lobby. Let us know what you think of Sweeney Todd or any other kind of darker musicals that you might like that aren't Rocky Horror Picture Show, because everyone's just going to say Rocky Horror.
That's more cult. That's not scary. That's cult classic.
But it's darker.
I guess.
And I feel like it's just the easy one to go, Rocky Horror. I want to know another dark musical that's not Rocky Horror.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
There's Repo, the genetic rock opera, which also starred Anthony Head.
Stop.
But, it's bad. I didn't say it was good. I'm just saying it's another one.
I think, yeah. I can't think of anything. Interesting. All right. And join us next week as we're going to 1990 to see a movie that I don't think Butler ever heard of. State of Grace.
I might not have heard it. The title is like, I've heard the title State of Grace, but that I don't know if that's because of the movie or not.
Yeah, I haven't seen this in a while, so I'm curious if I'm going to like it again. But I remember when I watched it the first time, I was like, oh, yeah, I like this film. So that's right. That's next week, State of Grace. What? I
said interesting.
Yeah, so hopefully we can find it.
Yeah, it's 1990, so I don't know.
Yep, that'll be next week. Until then, everyone, have a great week. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.